A struggling mother stands at the checkout counter, forced to return her baby's milk because she can't afford it. But what happens next will shatter her world forever. A millionaire, haunted by his own painful past, steps in and sets off a chain of events that will change all of their lives in ways no one could have imagined. This isn't just a story about money, it's about courage, sacrifice, and the power of standing up for someone when it matters most. This is not just a story, it's a piece of someone's hidden pain, quietly waiting to be heard. In today's story, we dive into a moment that can change everything, in the most unexpected way. Before we begin, where are you listening from? Canada, the US, Norway? Let us know in the comments, because stories may begin anywhere, but they connect us all. Stay with us until the very end, because sometimes, what breaks your heart can also heal it. And if you believe stories can change lives, hit subscribe. Join our journey. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment. Your voice matters here. The supermarket lights hummed overhead, bathing everything in a sterile white glow. The smell of freshly baked bread drifted faintly from the bakery corner, mingling with the faint sharpness of cleaning detergent. It was a Tuesday afternoon, ordinary in every way. People shuffled through aisles with baskets and carts, tired parents tugged at restless children, and cashiers called out prices in monotone repetition. But sometimes even the most ordinary places conceal extraordinary moments, moments that divide time into before and after. Michael Harrington, a man known across the city as the kind of millionaire who was both admired and envied, stood in line that day. He wasn't there for his usual driver's delivery or his assistant's errands. He had wanted to blend in, to remind himself what real people's lives felt like. He wore a plain navy sweater, jeans, and a baseball cap pulled low. Nobody around him knew who he was. 2 places ahead of him, a young mother placed her groceries on the conveyor belt. Her clothes were simple, worn thin from too many washes. Her shoes looked secondhand, the soles fraying. In her cart were only the basics: bread, a pack of eggs, some rice, and 1 small can of infant formula. She smiled down at her baby in the stroller, though the smile trembled, as if it was stitched together with threads of exhaustion. When the cashier announced the total, the young mother's shoulders stiffened. She dug through her small wallet, her trembling fingers counting coins. She came up short. After a brief, tense pause, she looked at the baby's formula can, her lips pressed together as though the choice physically hurt her. And then, she pushed the can back toward the cashier. "I'm sorry, I'll return this," she whispered. Her voice cracked, betraying the weight of the decision. Michael watched in silence as the cashier placed the formula aside. The baby began to fuss, a soft whimper turning into a thin cry. The mother bent down, shushing her child, and blinked quickly as if to force back tears before anyone noticed. To the rest of the store, it was nothing unusual. People returned items all the time. But to Michael, it was as though time itself had stopped. The sight of a mother giving up her child's milk carved something raw and unfamiliar into his chest. Memories he had buried long ago stirred violently. Memories of hunger, of choices no child should ever witness, of a world that had once turned its back on him. He clenched his fists. No one in that line knew who he really was, or what he could do in that moment. But Michael Harrington was about to make a decision, one that would not only change that young mother's life, but also unravel the carefully built walls around his own heart. Michael Harrington's life had always been defined by choices. Business deals, investments, partnerships. He had made decisions that built empires, decisions that carried millions of dollars on the weight of a single signature. But here, standing in that ordinary supermarket line, the choice before him felt heavier than any contract he had ever signed. The young mother's trembling hands lingered in his mind. He could still hear the quiet scrape of coins on the counter, the way her voice cracked when she said, "I'll return this." It wasn't just milk she had returned, it was dignity, hope, and perhaps even a night of peace for her baby. Michael shifted in place. His heart pounded against his chest, unsteady, foreign. Why was he hesitating? He could easily step forward, offer his credit card, and solve her problem in less than a minute. Yet something inside him urged caution, not because he lacked the means, but because of what he saw in her eyes. Pride. It was faint, buried under layers of exhaustion, but it was there. This woman wasn't begging. She hadn't turned to anyone for help. She had made her decision quietly, ready to bear the weight alone. To interfere recklessly might crush that fragile strength, and Michael knew all too well what pride meant when it was the only shield you had left. The cashier pushed her groceries into a thin paper bag. The baby's whimper turned into a sharper cry. The sound clawed at Michael's chest, dragging him backward through time, back to a tiny apartment with peeling wallpaper and a kitchen cabinet nearly empty. He remembered being 10 years old, watching his mother count coins in the dim light of a single flickering bulb. He remembered her sigh, the sound of defeat. The box of cereal had gone back on the counter that night. He had gone to bed hungry, but what stayed with him wasn't the hunger. It was the look in his mother's eyes when she thought he wasn't watching. desperation, guilt, silent sorrow. And here it was again, replaying itself years later, in a different woman's face. Michael swallowed hard, his jaw tightening. The line moved forward, and soon it would be his turn. But before him, the young mother was already struggling to push the stroller toward the door, her bag cutting into her thin wrist. The can of baby formula sat on a shelf behind the cashier, abandoned, forgotten by everyone except Michael. He took a step forward, then stopped. What if she refused his help? What if he embarrassed her in front of strangers? He could write checks worth millions without blinking, but the idea of approaching this one woman made his palms sweat. Still, he couldn't let her walk away. Not like this. Not while he had the power to change the ending of her story. He took a slow breath, making his decision. But as he opened his mouth, a voice cut through the air. A man standing behind him muttered, just loud enough to hear. Some people shouldn't have kids if they can't even afford milk. Michael froze. The young mother stiffened, her shoulders curling inward as if the words were knives. And just like that, Michael knew. His choice wasn't just about helping her buy milk anymore. It was about standing against every cruelty she had already endured. Michael's pulse quickened as the cruel words hung in the air. The mother didn't reply. She only pulled the stroller closer, clutching the handle as if to shield her child from both hunger and humiliation. Her face turned away, but not quickly enough to hide the flicker of pain that crossed it. Michael's jaw clenched. For years, he had sat at tables with arrogant men, listening to their careless words about people they would never understand. He had learned to keep calm, to maintain the mask of indifference, but this wasn't a boardroom. This was a mother and a baby. Two souls trying to survive. He grabbed a small pack of gum from the rack beside him, just to stall time, just to think. The cashier scanned it absently. His mind raced. How do I do this? How do I help her without shattering her dignity? As the receipt printed, he slipped his black card back into his wallet. It carried the power to buy her every bag of groceries she could ever need, to build her a house to end her struggles. But money was a double-edged sword. Handled wrong, it cut deeper than poverty itself. The mother was already near the automatic doors, her steps unsteady under the weight of both groceries and shame. Michael knew he had only seconds before she disappeared from his sight. Perhaps forever. He followed. Each step felt heavier than the last, burdened not by doubt in what he could do, but in how he should do it. Outside, the parking lot stretched wide under a dim gray sky, the kind of afternoon where rain threatened but never came. She struggled with the stroller, the front wheel catching on a crack in the pavement. Michael approached slowly, careful not to startle her. "Excuse me," he said softly. The woman froze, glancing over her shoulder. Up close, her exhaustion was even more visible. Dark circles rimmed her eyes and strands of hair escaped her messy bun. She looked at him warily, like someone who had been approached before by strangers with either pity or judgment. And she wasn't sure which was worse. "You dropped this." Michael extended his hand, holding the receipt she had left behind at the counter. It wasn't much, just paper, but it gave him an excuse to bridge the silence. "Oh, thank you," she murmured, her voice fragile. Her baby fussed again, tiny fists waving, a soft cry breaking through. The mother rocked the stroller gently, whispering comfort that sounded more like a prayer. Michael's chest tightened. He wanted to blurt it out. "Let me buy the formula, please let me help you." But the words caught in his throat. Instead, he said, I couldn't help but notice. Back at the counter, you had to return something." Her expression shifted, guarded, defensive. A shadow crossed her face as she straightened, as if preparing for another blow of judgment. "It's fine," she said quickly. "We'll be fine." Her words were sharp, but her eyes betrayed her. Beneath the shield of strength was a mother desperate, terrified of tomorrow. Michael nodded slowly. He had seen enough poker faces in boardrooms to know when someone was bluffing. And this bluff was breaking her heart. The wind picked up, carrying the faint cry of her baby. Michael leaned closer, lowering his voice. "I think you and I both know it's not fine." Her eyes widened, just for a second, before she looked away. Michael inhaled deeply. The moment had come. He could walk away, keep his silence, pretend this wasn't his problem. Or he could take the step that would change both of their lives. He opened his mouth, ready to speak the words that had been burning inside him. And then, her phone buzzed. She froze, staring at the screen. Her lips trembled as her eyes filled with sudden fear. The phone buzzed again, sharp and demanding, cutting through the quiet tension of the parking lot. The mother's hand shook as she pulled it from her pocket, the screen lighting up with a name Michael couldn't see. Her breath hitched, almost imperceptibly, but enough to betray fear. "Everything okay?" Michael asked softly, careful not to push too far. She pressed the phone to her ear, turning slightly away from him, though her trembling voice carried. Hello?" Silence at first. Then a man's voice thundered through the line, so loud Michael could hear fragments even from a few feet away. The tone was harsh, filled with venom. "I told you, Anna." If that baby doesn't have what it needs when I come by tonight, you'll regret it. Do you hear me? Michael froze. The mother, Anna, squeezed her eyes shut, gripping the stroller so tightly her knuckles turned white. Yes, I'm trying, she whispered. I'll figure something out, I promise. Please just... The line went dead. The abrupt silence was worse than the shouting. Anna lowered the phone slowly, her face pale, her eyes glassy with unshed tears. She looked at her baby, then quickly swiped at her cheeks, forcing herself back into composure. Michael's instincts roared within him. He had seen ruthless men before, the kind who fed on fear. But this was different. This wasn't a business rival. This was someone who had his claws sunk into a vulnerable mother. Anna. The name felt strange on his tongue, but he needed to anchor her in the moment. Who was that? She stiffened. No one. Just no one you need to worry about. Her eyes darted to the ground anywhere but at him. Michael recognized the look. It was the same look children in foster homes wore, the one that said, "If I don't talk about it, maybe it won't be real." Anna, please, Michael urged. His voice was low, steady. I don't know what's happening, but I can see you're scared. She shook her head violently. You don't understand. People like you live in a different world. You don't know what it's like to have no one. To fight for every meal, every bill, every breath. Her voice cracked, and she bit her lip, forcing herself to silence. Michael's throat tightened. If only she knew how wrong she was. Once, he had been exactly where she stood. He wanted to tell her that. He wanted to say, I know. I've been there. But revealing himself wasn't simple. To the world, he was Michael Harrington, the untouchable millionaire. To her right now, he was just a stranger in a parking lot. Anna gripped the stroller and began to move again, her pace quick, desperate to escape not just the parking lot, but his questions, his presence. Michael followed a step behind, torn between respecting her space and refusing to let her slip away. Every instinct told him this wasn't just about baby formula anymore. There was danger circling her life, something darker than poverty. As she neared the edge of the lot, she paused suddenly. Her phone buzzed again, this time a text. She glanced at it, and her face drained of color. Michael caught a glimpse of the words on the screen before she turned it away. You have until tonight. Don't fail me again. Anna gasped softly, clutching the phone to her chest. Her lips trembled, her eyes darting nervously around as though someone might already be watching. Michael stepped closer, his voice firm now. Anna, listen to me. Whoever that is, whatever this is, I can help you. But you need to trust me. She stared at him for a long, breathless moment, her eyes torn between disbelief and desperate hope. Then, with a sudden shiver, she whispered the words that would change everything. You don't understand? If you help me, he'll come after you too. The wind swirled through the parking lot, rattling the stray carts abandoned near the curb. Michael stood frozen, Anna's words echoing in his head. If you help me, he'll come after you too. He had faced hostile takeovers, ruthless competitors, men who would bleed him dry for a contract. But never had anyone warned him in such raw, trembling fear. Whoever he was, Anna clearly believed he held the power to destroy lives. Anna, Michael said gently, I've dealt with dangerous men before. If someone's threatening you, you don't have to face it alone. Her laugh was hollow, almost bitter. Dangerous men. You think you've dealt with someone like him? No. You don't know what he's capable of. Her eyes darted around as though even speaking about this man might summon him. The baby whimpered again, sensing the tension. Anna bent down, her shaky hand stroking the child's cheek. The sight cut Michael deeper than any sharp word. A mother trying to soothe her child while drowning in fear. He had seen numbers on spreadsheets, companies rising and falling, but nothing compared to the weight of this moment. Tell me, he urged quietly. Anna's throat worked as if swallowing something painful. She straightened slowly, her face pale. His name is Ryan. He's my ex. She hesitated. No, calling him that feels too kind. He's a shadow I can't escape. Michael stayed silent, letting her speak. He wasn't always like this. When we first met, he was charming, funny. He made me believe in love, in a future. But the mask didn't last. Behind closed doors, he controlled everything. My money, my choices, even who I could speak to. And when the baby came, her voice faltered. She looked down at her child, tears glistening in her eyes. He said we were nothing but dead weight. That I owed him for every meal, every roof over my head. Michael's hands curled into fists. He recognized the cruelty in those words. They weren't just insults, they were shackles. One night I left, Anna whispered. I grabbed my baby and ran. I thought I was free. But Ryan, he doesn't let go. He finds me no matter where I hide. And when he does, she cut herself off, shuddering. Michael's chest ached. The businessman in him calculated risks, strategies, solutions. But the man, the boy who once knew hunger and fear, felt only the raw need to protect her. Anna, he said firmly, you're not alone anymore. Not while I'm here. She looked at him then. Truly looked, as if weighing whether to trust this stranger with the truth that had cost her so much. But before she could answer, a black sedan turned into the parking lot. Its tinted windows gleamed under the gray sky. Anna's entire body went rigid. Her breath caught. It's him. Michael followed her gaze, his pulse spiking as the car slowed near them. The black sedan crept across the parking lot like a predator circling its prey. Its engine purred low, steady, and menacing. Even from a distance, Michael could feel the weight of its presence. Anna's grip on the stroller tightened until her knuckles turned ghostly white. Her whisper was almost a sob. It's him, oh God, it's him. Michael's instincts sharpened. The man inside hadn't even stepped out, but his presence was already suffocating her. Michael scanned the lot, calculating exits, routes, possibilities. Years of corporate battles had honed his mind for strategy, but this was no boardroom. This was raw survival. Stay calm, he murmured, steadying his voice. Don't let him see your fear. But Anna was already trembling. The sedan slowed, then stopped just a few yards away. The tinted window rolled down an inch, enough to reveal a shadowy figure inside. Smoke curled from the crack, the bitter stench of a cigarette drifting on the breeze. Then a voice, deep and mocking, going shopping without me? Anna. Anna flinched as if the words were a whip. Her baby stirred in the stroller, beginning to fuss. Michael stepped subtly forward, placing himself between Anna and the car, his body a shield. His pulse thundered, but his stance was firm. Who's this? The voice drawled. The shadow leaned closer, and for the first time Michael saw him. Sharp jaw, cold eyes that gleamed with cruelty. Ryan. Anna's lips parted, but no words came out. Fear clamped her throat shut. Michael spoke instead, his tone calm but edged with steel. A friend. Ryan chuckled darkly. A friend. You don't have friends, Anna? You have debts. And you? His eyes flicked to Michael, narrowing. You don't know what you're stepping into, buddy. Michael didn't flinch. Try me. The air thickened with tension. Ryan's smile widened, but it wasn't friendly. It was the smile of a man who enjoyed breaking people. You think you're her hero? You'll walk away, just like everyone else. They always do. Anna's nothing but a burden. Anna's eyes brimmed with tears, shame warring with fury. Her hands shook on the stroller, torn between running and collapsing. Michael's voice cut through the venom. She's not a burden. And she's not alone. For a moment silence fell. The baby whimpered, the only sound in the heavy stillness. Then Ryan's expression shifted, anger simmering just beneath the surface. He flicked his cigarette out the window, embers scattering across the asphalt. This isn't over, he hissed. You've got until tonight, Anna. Don't make me come looking. The window slid up, sealing his words inside the dark car. The sedan rolled forward, slow and deliberate, before disappearing around the corner. Only when the sound of the engine faded did Anna collapse against the stroller, her knees weak. Tears streamed freely down her cheeks. Michael steadied her with a hand on her shoulder. Anna, he said quietly, who's not going to hurt you again. I won't let him. But in her eyes, fear still flickered, deep and unyielding. She shook her head. You don't understand, Michael. Ryan doesn't give up. And when he loses control, she trailed off, voice breaking. Michael's chest tightened. What happens when he loses control? Anna looked up at him, her voice barely a whisper. People get hurt. Badly. The parking lot seemed emptier now, though Michael could still feel Ryan's presence lingering in the air like a storm that hadn't passed. Anna sat down heavily on the curb, the stroller parked close, her trembling hands gripping the handle as though she feared the baby might be ripped away at any moment. Michael crouched beside her. His tone was gentle, but his eyes were firm. Anna, I need to know the truth. What has Ryan done? Why does he hold this much power over you? She shook her head, staring at the ground. If I tell you, you'll look at me differently. Everyone does. I won't. Michael said without hesitation. You have my word. Her lips trembled, and for a long moment she seemed to fight an invisible war inside herself. Then with a sharp breath, she whispered, Ryan doesn't just shout. He doesn't just threaten. He hurts people. And not just me. Michael's heart sank. Anna's voice shook as she continued. When I was pregnant, he used to say the baby wasn't his, that I was trying to trap him. One night I tried to defend myself, just words, nothing more. He snapped. He shoved me so hard I hit the floor. I remember lying there, terrified I'd lost my child before it was even born. Michael's stomach twisted, rage simmering under his calm exterior. Anna looked away, blinking fast, as though the memory itself burned. But it wasn't just me. There was a friend, Clara. She tried to help me once, told me I didn't deserve what he was doing. Ryan, he found out. He cornered her outside her apartment, told her if she ever came near me again, he'd make her disappear. She left town the next day. I never saw her again. Her voice cracked into a sob she tried to muffle. Michael placed a steady hand on her arm. Anna, none of that was your fault. That's his evil, not yours. But she shook her head violently. You don't get it. Ryan doesn't stop. He watches me. He knows where I go, who I speak to. Every time I think I'm free, he's there again. And now, she glanced at her baby, her face crumpling. Now I'm terrified he'll take the only good thing I have left. Michael's throat tightened. He had seen pain, betrayal, loss. But this, the desperation of a mother ready to sacrifice herself for her child, hit him like nothing else. You're not alone anymore, he said firmly, meeting her eyes. I won't let him take anything from you again. Not your child, not your hope, not your future. For the first time, a flicker of something broke through her fear, hope fragile but real. But before Michael could say more, Anna's phone buzzed again. She hesitated, her face draining of color as she read the message. Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped the phone. Michael took it gently, his eyes narrowing as he read the words. Midnight. If you don't have what I want, I'll come inside. Anna gasped, pressing her hand over her mouth. Oh God, he knows where I live. Michael's gaze hardened. This wasn't just intimidation anymore. It was a countdown. The message burned in Michael's mind, midnight. If you don't have what I want, I'll come inside. Every instinct told him this wasn't just a threat, it was a promise. Ryan was coming. Anna, Michael said firmly, you can't go back there alone. Take me with you. Her head snapped up, panic flashing in her eyes. No, if he sees you, he'll... She trailed off, shaking her head. I can't drag you into this. Michael's voice was steady, unwavering. You're not dragging me anywhere. I'm choosing this. I've seen enough to know you and your child are in real danger. For a moment, Anna looked at him as though she wanted to believe. Then, slowly, she nodded. The drive to her apartment was silent, broken only by the baby's soft coos in the back seat. Michael drove his modest sedan. Anonymity was his armor today. As they neared the city's outskirts, the polished storefronts and tidy streets gave way to cracked sidewalks, dim streetlights, and buildings that sagged under years of neglect. Anna's world was a stark contrast to Michael's. Where his penthouse suite overlooked glittering skylines, hers hid in shadows. She directed him to a weathered brick building with peeling paint and broken blinds in half the windows. The front door groaned as she pushed it open. The hallway smelled faintly of mildew and cheap disinfectant. A single flickering bulb lit the stairs. Michael carried the stroller up behind her, his chest tight with a mix of anger and disbelief. How could someone as strong as Anna be forced to live like this, under constant fear? Her apartment was small. One bedroom, a tiny kitchen, the walls bare except for a crooked clock. The baby's crib was tucked into a corner of the living room, filled with second-hand blankets. Everything was neat, but worn thin, stretched beyond its limit, just like Anna herself. I know it's not much, she said quietly, placing the baby down gently. But it's home. Michael looked around, then back at her. Anna, no one should have to live under threats in their own home. Tonight, that ends. She stared at him, a flicker of both hope and dread in her eyes. You don't know him. He doesn't fight fair. He twists things, controls everything. What if he hurts you? What if he... Michael stepped closer, his gaze steady. I've been underestimated before, and I've survived worse than you can imagine. Trust me. Her lips parted, as if she wanted to ask what he meant. But before she could, the baby stirred in the crib, a soft whimper that seemed to pull her back into the moment. The clock on the wall ticked. 9:47 p.m. Time was slipping away, pulling them closer to midnight. Michael sat near the window, watching the dark street below. His body was tense, ready. For once, this wasn't about money, business, or reputation. It was about protecting someone who couldn't fight alone. Anna wrapped a thin blanket around her shoulders, sitting silently beside the crib. She looked so small, so fragile in that moment. But Michael knew there was steel in her, hidden beneath layers of fear. He promised himself before dawn Ryan would never hold power over her again. Then outside, headlights swept across the wall. A car slowed, idling near the building. Michael's breath caught. It wasn't midnight yet. The rumble of the engine outside reverberated through the thin apartment walls. Michael's eyes locked on the window, his body coiled like a spring. Anna's breath hitched, and she instinctively reached for her baby, scooping the child into her arms. It's too early, she whispered, her voice trembling. It can't be him, it's not midnight yet. Michael's jaw tightened. Men like him don't follow clocks. The headlights cut off, plunging the street back into darkness. The silence that followed was more suffocating than the sound of the engine. Then, 3 heavy knocks set against the apartment door. Anna flinched, clutching her baby closer. Michael stood, moving silently toward the door. Stay back, he said in a low voice. Another knock, slower this time. Boom. Anna. A voice slithered through the wood, taunting familiar. You in there. Her face drained of color. It was Ryan. Michael positioned himself by the door, forcing his breathing steady. He needed to think. If Ryan forced his way inside, Anna and the baby would be exposed. He glanced toward the back of the apartment. No fire escape, no easy exit. They were trapped. Open up. Ryan called, his tone sharper now. You've got something of mine. Anna's eyes widened with terror. She mouthed the word no toward Michael, as if begging him not to confront him, but Michael's blood boiled. Ryan's voice carried arrogance, cruelty, the certainty of a predator who had never been stopped. Michael wouldn't let him have that power tonight. "I'm going to count to 3, Ryan said. "If that door isn't open, He didn't finish. The sound of keys rattling broke the silence. Anna's hand flew to her mouth. "He has a key," she whispered, panic flooding her eyes. Michael's muscles tensed. He scanned the room, an old wooden chair near the kitchen. He grabbed it quickly, wedging it under the door knob just as the metal scraped in the lock. The knob twisted. The chair groaned but held. Ryan cursed on the other side, pounding once with his fist. "You think you can keep me out?" His voice dropped into a dangerous growl. "You don't know who you're messing with." Michael pressed his palm against the door, leaning close. His voice was calm, but every word carried ice. "You're not coming in. Not tonight. Not ever again." Silence. Then a low laugh, chilling in its confidence. So this is the new man. Figures. Anna always needed someone to fight her battles. "Let me give you some advice, pal. You're standing in the wrong place at the wrong time." The baby whimpered in Anna's arms, the sound slicing through the thick air. Michael's heart pounded harder, not from fear for himself, but for them. Outside, Ryan's footsteps retreated slowly, deliberately. The crunch of gravel, the car door opening, then slamming shut. The engine roared to life, but the threat didn't fade. Instead, it lingered in Ryan's parting words, shouted through the night as the sedan pulled away. "Midnight, Anna. Midnight, or everything you love burns." Anna collapsed onto the couch, shaking violently. Michael knelt beside her, his hand firm on her shoulder. "We'll be ready," he said. "This ends tonight." But even as he said it, he knew. Ryan wasn't bluffing. The clock on Anna's wall ticked louder than it should have, each second hammering into the silence. 11:58. Michael sat by the window, shoulders tense, eyes scanning the dark street below. Beside him, Anna rocked her baby gently, whispering lullabies through trembling lips. Her voice was soft, but Michael could hear the undercurrent of fear, like someone trying to hold back a tidal wave with nothing but their hands. 11:59. Headlights cut through the darkness. A black sedan rolled slowly down the street, its engine low, steady, and merciless. Michael's chest tightened. This time, Ryan wasn't playing games. The car stopped directly in front of the building. The driver's door opened. Ryan stepped out tall, broad, his silhouette sharp under the dim streetlight. He didn't hurry. He walked with the slow, deliberate confidence of a man who believed he owned the night. The clock struck midnight. Michael stood moving between Anna and the door. His pulse thundered, but his focus was razor sharp. He had faced tycoons with billions at stake. He had walked into rooms where every handshake was a trap. But this was the fight that mattered most. Ryan's footsteps echoed up the stairwell, heavy and unrelenting. Then came the knock, loud, violent, shaking the door on its hinges. "Anna," Ryan's voice thundered. "You've got one last chance. Open this door before I tear it down." The baby began to cry, the sound slicing through the tense silence. Anna's hands shook as she held her child close, eyes wide with panic. Michael's voice was calm but strong. "Stay behind me." The chair wedged under the knob rattled as Ryan tried the key again. Metal scraped, wood groaned, and the door jolted under his weight. Michael gripped the chair, bracing it with his body. "You're not coming in, Ryan." Ryan's laughter on the other side was cold, venomous. "You think you can stop me? You don't know who I am." Michael's jaw tightened. "I don't care who you are. You won't touch her? Not ever." There was a pause. Then Ryan slammed his shoulder against the door. The frame shook violently. Anna gasped, clutching her baby tighter. Michael held firm, his muscles straining against the pressure. "Anna, call the police," he ordered. Her hands fumbled for the phone, but before she could dial, Ryan shouted again. "Don't bother. They won't get here in time. By the time they do, you'll both be..." The door cracked, the wood splintering under his assault. Michael knew he couldn't hold it much longer. His mind raced. He could fight Ryan. He was strong, but Ryan was fueled by rage and obsession. Still, Michael had something Ryan didn't purpose. "Anna," he said, not looking back, "no matter what happens, you keep that baby safe. Promise me." Tears streaked her cheeks. "Michael." The door burst open. The chair snapped, wood splintering across the floor. Ryan stormed in, his eyes wild, his fists clenched. Michael stepped forward, planting himself firmly in the center of the room. "It ends now." Ryan charged into the room like a storm, his eyes burning with fury, his presence filling the small apartment with suffocating menace. The baby cried louder, Anna clutching her child as tears streaked her face. Michael didn't flinch. He stepped forward, squaring himself between Ryan and the family he was sworn to protect. His chest rose and fell with controlled breaths, but his eyes were locked with Ryan's, steady and unyielding. "Get out," Michael said, his voice low but commanding. Ryan sneered, taking another step inside. "You don't tell me what to do," She's mine. She always was. You're just another fool getting in the way. Not anymore. Michael replied, his tone like steel. With a roar, Ryan lunged. The force of his body slammed against Michael, sending them both crashing into the coffee table. Glass shattered, wood cracked. Anna screamed, clutching her baby tighter. Retreating to the far corner of the room, Michael grunted, rolling to his feet. Ryan came at him again, fists flying. One punch connected with Michael's jaw, snapping his head back. Pain shot through him, but he steadied himself, tasting blood. He countered, one swift punch to Ryan's ribs, then another to his jaw. Ryan staggered but didn't stop. His rage made him reckless, dangerous. You think you can take me? Ryan spat, charging again. Michael braced himself, then shifted aside at the last second, shoving Ryan off balance. He stumbled, crashing into the wall with a thunderous thud. Stay down, Michael growled. But Ryan wasn't finished. He pushed off the wall, eyes wild, and reached for a broken shard of glass from the table. The jagged edge glinted under the dim light. Anna gasped. Michael. Ryan lunged, swinging the glass toward Michael's chest. In that split second, Michael's instincts took over. He grabbed Ryan's wrist, twisting hard, forcing the weapon away. The shard clattered to the ground. With a surge of strength, Michael pinned Ryan against the wall, his forearm pressed firmly against his throat. Ryan struggled, his face turning red, his voice hoarse. You can't stop me. Michael's voice was steady, resolute. This ends tonight. Sirens wailed in the distance. The faint red and blue lights flickered against the window. Relief washed across Anna's face as she held her baby close, rocking him even as tears of fear and exhaustion spilled down her cheeks. Ryan thrashed violently, but Michael held firm until the pounding of boots on the stairs filled the building. The door burst open, uniformed officers storming in with weapons drawn. Freeze. One shouted. Michael stepped back, letting Ryan collapse to the floor, gasping for breath. The officers rushed forward, cuffing him quickly as he spat curses and threats, his power slipping away with every click of the metal around his wrists. Anna's sobs broke the silence. She fell to her knees, holding her baby tight, whispering words of comfort. Michael walked to her side, kneeling beside her, his hand gently resting on her shoulder. Their eyes met, hers filled with gratitude and disbelief, his with quiet reassurance. It's over, he whispered. The baby's cries softened into small hiccups as Anna kissed his forehead. She looked back at Michael, her voice trembling. Why did you help us? You could have walked away. Michael's eyes softened, a shadow of old pain flickering in them. Because once, I watched someone I loved suffer alone. I swore I'd never let it happen again. The officers dragged Ryan out, his shouts fading down the stairwell. The apartment fell silent, the chaos slowly dissolving into calm. For the first time in a long while, Anna felt safe. She reached for Michael's hand, gripping it tightly. And in that fragile moment, in a broken apartment lit only by flashing sirens, 3 lives began to heal. The battle is over, but a new beginning has just begun.
This is not just the story of a poor mother forced to return her baby's milk. It's the story of a millionaire who saw her pain and chose to act. What began as a simple act of kindness turned into a battle against cruelty, fear, and despair. In the end, it became a story of hope, redemption, and the truth that sometimes the greatest wealth is not in money, but in the courage to protect and love others when they need it most.